Hello everyone, welcome to StudyIQ English, your favorite UPSC platform in India. A great development and a milestone has been set once again today in the Indian democracy as the NDA candidate and Maharashtra governor, Shri P Radhakrishnan, has been elected as India's 15th new vice president. The controversy began back in 21st July 2025 when the existing 14th vice president of India, Shri Jagdeep Dhankar, he resigned from his post, addressing his resignation to the president, highlighting health concerns. He stepped down. And today, after the election process, the much awaited process, we finally have India's new 15th vice president for us, and he is Shri C.P. Radhakrishnan. So now this brings us to a constitutional dimension. For our UPSC exam, GS Paper 2, Constitution, Governance, Polity, we should know that which articles of the Constitution deal with the election of the Vice President, his tenure, his resignation, and various other provisions for this post. So let's quickly have a look at then what's the relevance of Article 66 of the Constitution right now and why is it making breaking news? Now, the post of Indian Vice President is modeled quite on the lines of American Vice President in India. In India, the Vice President has the second highest office in the country in the matter of presidents. Now, talking about Article 63 itself. The Article 63 of the Constitution creates the office of the Vice President of India. It says there shall be a Vice President of India. Now, Article 64, and there is another article, that's Article 19, Subarticle 1, which say the Vice President shall be the ex officio Chairman of the Council of States and the Parliament, which means the upper house, Rajya Sabha, the key representative of Indian states in the Parliament. Talking about Article 66 of the Constitution, we need to first understand the provision of Article 65, in fact. Because if 66 talks about election, then 65 says, in case of the occurrence of a vacancy, an empty spot in the office of the president by either death or resignation or removal, or for any other purpose, it is the Vice President of India who shall act as the president until the date on which a new president enters the office. So 65th article is equally important. And now let's analyze the provisions of the much spoken about Article 66. Under this article, we talk about the process of election of the Vice President. Quite a prominent question for next year prelims 2026. Now, under the Article 66, the provision says, Vice President in India shall be elected by the members of an electoral college. You may have heard of the word electoral college when you must have studied about the presidential election. But again, in the case of Vice President, it has to be an electoral college which will have members of both houses of the Parliament. The upper house, Rajya Sabha, the House of the People, Lok Sabha. And the election will happen through a system of proportional representation by the means of a single transferable vote. Of course, the voting shall be done by a secret ballot. That's the constitutional provision regarding electoral process of the VP, the Vice President. Also, let's understand that the Vice President of India cannot be a member of either house of the Parliament or neither a member of any house of the state legislature. Now, in case a member of one of the houses of the Parliament, the Rajya Sabha or the Lok Sabha, or any state legislature happens to be elected as the Vice President, he or she will immediately have to vacate his or her seat in the House on the date which he or she enters office as the Vice President. So this is very important to remember. Now, Article 66 also has a sub-clause, Clause 3, which says no person shall be eligible for election as India's Vice President until the following conditions have been met. One, of course, that this person has to be a citizen of India. Now, today, citizenship once again has become a very controversial issue. Ever since the Election Commission has been ordered by the Supreme Court to use Aadhaar card as a proof of citizenship for the purpose of electoral roll preparation in Bihar. We know it is a one-off case. Usually, Aadhaar proves your identity your address proof. It doesn't double up as your proof of citizenship, which is always regulated under the Part 2 Indian Constitution and the Citizenship Act. But this time, because Bihar had a lot of problem, many eligible voters were included. Rather, they were not included in the voting list in the electoral roll. They experienced systematic exclusion, particularly migrant workers and the women. Hence, the Supreme Court has told the Election Commission for the purpose of Bihar election to actually allow as one of the 12 permitted documents to be the Aadhaar. So therefore, once again, we are completely in a controversy. Controversy under the provisions of the Representation of People Act 1950, that is the Citizenship Act, Part 2 of the Constitution, and the Bihar election. Hence, today citizenship is a very valid question, even for a UPSC exam. So let's understand, anybody who has to be elected to the post of the VP of India has to be a citizen of India. This person must have completed 35 years of age. Kindly do not get confused in the age eligibility criteria of membership to Lok Sabha. Here, for the VP, it is 35 years of age. And the person who wants to be elected to the post of the VP has to be qualified for being elected as the member of the Council of States. We mean Rajya Sabha. Now, these are certain very exam important points. So the election to the post of the VP of India will actually be a constitutionally mandated process, and therefore, like all other important elections, it will be handled by the ECI, the Election Commission of India. Again, today it has come under massive controversy and debate. Now, Article 67 is also worth remembering. The Article 67 of our Constitution therefore says the Vice President of India shall hold office for a period of 5 years from the date on which he or she enters the office. However, the Vice President shall, notwithstanding the expiration of his term, so even if the term expires earlier, such candidate will have to be in office until the next successor takes his office. Okay, so that's important to remember here. And now let's talk about Article 71 quickly. So what if there is a dispute regarding the election of a vice president? Who takes care of that? So quite like in other cases of election disputes, here as well, it is the decision of the Honorable Supreme Court that will have the final call. So Article 71 provides for that. It says that matters relating or connected with the election of president or the vice president of India, all the doubts, all the disputes that arise in connection with election of either the president or the vice president shall be inquired properly, systematically, and the final call will be taken by the Supreme Court, whose decision in the case will have to be binding. So this is again something we need to remember. Now quickly let's do a prelims practice question. Which of the following statements about the vice presidential election of India in 2025 are true? 1. The election was necessitated. It was important by the resignation of the previous president before the term expiry. 2. Only elected members of the parliament take part in the voting, not the nominated members. Now, this is a very repetitive statement. If you just look at the UPSC previous year questions, then multiple times, whenever they give you a question on electing the president or the vice presidential post, this one statement will always be there to deliberately confuse you regarding the composition of electoral college, whether it has only elected members of the parliament or nominated ones are also allowed. So remember that. 3. The voting system is through a single transferable vote under the system of proportional representation. So which of these options do you think is or are valid? You can answer the question, post your answer, leave a thread for discussion. We can take it up from there. If you have an opinion, any suggestion, please feel free to raise it in the comment box. PDFs will always be provided in the description box of the video. And now before I take your leave, just a gentle reminder on the sale that's going on. It's a massive end of season sale. You can choose any subject and you can get it at a very easy price, at a discounted price. All you need to do is use code SPLIVE on your screen. So you can pick from a UPSC course, a state PSC course, judiciary course, any optional subject. Absolutely, you can make your journey much smoother with us. Okay, so use the code, take the advantage of the sale here, and I'll see you soon with another interesting video. Thank you.